Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, pro wrestling, sports, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is a professional wrestler and he's also a video game streamer, does a lot of really cool things. You'll recognize him when he was in the WWE as Aiden English. We're with Matt Rehwoldt. Matt, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. And it's pretty cool. There's like right off the bat, like, you know, you have the streaming setup and everything. I mean, there always has been, I feel like, a good relationship with like pro wrestling and video games. Have you noticed that?
Well, especially in like, I don't know what to call it, like my generation of like wrestlers, 100%. Like, so there was a joke backstage because especially like New Day, Xavier Woods, and he got Kofi to do it, but they would bring their little like mobile setups to all the house shows, all the so the men's locker room would set up with sometimes three like PlayStation setups, or even sometimes Woods would have his laptop, and everyone was talking about like, man, the 80s it was beer and cocaine, and in the 20-teens it's video games. So we're definitely more healthy from that standpoint as far as obsessions and pastimes. So yeah, I definitely know there's much more that generation of kind of young people who grew up in the late 80s to the early 90s, the big surge of video games. Now we're in our 30s and in wrestling, so it kind of carries over.
There's so many, like, because me and my friends were playing Among Us. Have you played that yet?
So that's my big. I have a Mac right now and I hate it. And then I have a PlayStation, so I don't have it on any major platform. I did try it on my phone though for a couple games.
Dude, it's so much fun. It is.
Dude, people love to call meetings like immediately. I've played 4 or 5 games and people call like crew meetings within like 30 seconds of playing. It's insane. Everyone's really jumpy about it.
It is nice.
I love it.
Give me 1 second. Sorry, I have this like Zoom thing that keeps opening up.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Okay, no.
Don't worry.
No, we're good. Thank God these are not live, by the way. Live streams are kind of risky. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, no, it's just the landscape is crazy. For you specifically, pro wrestling though, I feel like people who've kind of followed your career kind of know the answer to this question, but like, what kind of drew you towards pro wrestling? Was it like the in-ring? Was it the performing aspect of things?
It was literally everything. I mean, I was a kid. I think honestly, it started off probably from somewhere. It was like FOMO. Like I didn't have cable TV growing up. So I didn't have USA Network. I didn't have TNT when WCW was on. So like I didn't really know much about it. And so I got to like late elementary school, like early middle school kind of days, and all the kids would talk about it. They would talk about what happened on Monday Night Raw. And I was like, what the hell is this? It sounds amazing. What is an Undertaker? That seems cool. I need to find out. And so eventually I was able to see it on some little local show. And then we got cable as like a teenager or when I was 12. And so then I was hooked. So whether it was because I just felt like I needed to watch it and then fell in love with it, I don't know. But it was just, I was like, let me see if this makes sense to anybody out there. But I always felt like a somewhat athletic nerd.
Yeah.
Like I liked nerdy. I liked video games. I was shy and like a quiet kid. And so like, I liked theater.
But now that's the cool thing. Like it's cool to be a nerd.
Right. But when I was like 12, it wasn't. And so like,
it wasn't.
No. So, but like, I would also like, I had a trampoline and like, I was like, oh, I can kind of do some things. And like, I have this, despite being a tall, lanky kid, I'm kind of like, I felt kind of like agile, but I liked all these nerdy things. So like that performing and athletic, because I was terrible at real sports. I'll tell you that. I tried basketball, I tried cross country, tried soccer, did gymnastics, which was okay.
Yeah.
But nothing that I just really clicked at or loved. And like, it was just, I think it was the combination of being able to perform and be like athletic that from like day one just drew me in.
No, for sure. And people have followed you as Aiden English. I mean, you had a very interesting career in WWE. I mean, NXT. I mean, the Vaudevillains, became like one of the biggest tag teams in NXT. And like I said, I'm sure there are ups and downs in terms of, you guys show up to work, you do your thing, but like there are some things you guys don't have control over and stuff. But like, talk a little bit about your kind of experiences with, Simon Gotch as the Vaudevillains, because I feel like that was a big focal point of your wrestling career for sure.
Oh, I mean, that was the first. I mean, I had a nice, like, fun little run, is like the initial Drama King thing in NXT with the singing and the roses. So like I had the sing off with Big Cass, like things but that was I look at that and I'm like, I see that as my beginning, but I'm like, you know what? That was like 6 months of my career, really. And then they kind of rolled it into the Vaudevillains thing shortly thereafter. And yeah, I mean, that was the first like big run of anything I'd really done in my career, which culminated in those NXT tag team championships, which to me, that's the moment out of all of them that's going to stick out, because not only was it the tag team championship match, our first WWE championship of any kind, and it was also that first Brooklyn show, that first arena NXT show. And so it was so momentous. It was such a crazy weekend.
The pop when you guys won the belts, though, was insane. I'll never forget that. And
man, that was so validating. And so just because even from the beginning, even when we were starting to get like popular and people I was like, oh, okay. Like, but we were still like in that Full Sail crowd, it's like 400 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're so unique. That crowd is so unique. They like their weird homegrown guys. I'm like, I still felt weird about, like, is this going to translate that much outside of like Florida and these small shows? And this strange little act of ours, is it really good? Can it really be popular? And then, to hear like not only when we came out and like the blue pants thing, and then when we won,
I forgot about blue pants.
And then it was all like, okay, it was what's her name, Sally Field at the Oscars. It was, they like us, they really
but it's
like
one
us.
of those things too where you showed up like you were kind of villains in the beginning, and then you were kind of like faces for a little bit, but then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but like you guys got called up to the main roster as villains, no?
Yes.
And I think, like, you know what? I don't work for the WWE, but I mean, like, you were getting pretty popular as faces. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, we were. And like, when that was coming out, like, and it was a strange time because we had the championships, and then we put them on the Revival, which I loved because I love those guys. But then it was like right after that, they like kind of turned us back into bad guys, even in NXT prior to that. And I was almost like, why? I was like, we can still run this out. I'm like, people still like us. They'd like us to stay.
The theme transformation was the best too, like your theme song.
Yeah,
where it had like Simon Gotch, Aiden English, and then like the because when you were bad guys, it had more of like a suspenseful feel.
Oh
right? Yeah, and then it got all like fun and like when you guys were faces. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it changed the mood.
It was amazing as well. It's one of those things where COVID has been obviously a game changer for professional wrestling. And you were someone that unfortunately got released because of COVID in WWE. Now I saw a lot of interviews. You did an interview with my friend. Shout out to Chris Van Fleet. Check out his podcast. He's fantastic. He's done a lot of interviews. More people have been more vocal about it than you have been, right? But like in terms of like. Because some people got the call and were expecting the call, like saying like, yeah, they're releasing guys, I haven't been doing much, you know what I mean? What was it for you? Like, was it kind of like a 50-50 or was it kind of like what was that like?
Yeah. So I that's probably a decent way to put it, because at the time I was doing the commentary thing. And so,
yes.
And I kind of that made me feel kind of like I thought, like safe in a way, because I'm kind of in a different department at this point, even though I was still finishing out like my wrestler contract. I was supposed to sign a new contract in April of this year. That's when my contract ran out, which I think is kind of what tipped them on their decision. Wow. But I was going to resign as an announcer for the foreseeable future because I was enjoying my role, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I know like shit. Things are shifting, and wasn't sure the future of 205 Live, and even NXT was kind of like, what are we doing with it with everything with COVID? So, but I thought, I had a great relationship with everyone. I did not have any issue with anyone. Everyone liked me, sort of situation.
Yeah.
But as I started to like, got the message and started to hear a few names, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, there was a part of me that was like, I bet. I'm like, how much you want it? Because then my broadcast partner got the call. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'm like, I have a funny feeling. And then sure enough, same thing. So I'm like, okay.
I mean, I feel like they kind of, I mean, a big thing about WWE's business model, of course, is the live shows.
Wrong.
Okay.
which makes the this is probably the most controversial thing I've said in an interview so far, but which makes the releases, and people have said this, it's not like hot topic, but what makes them a little bit like questionable. I mean, I get it, you got to cut things at some time, but live events were a very small part of the company's revenue. I mean, in fact, they were already talking about reducing them because they don't make a lot of money.
Well, I'm talking also like the pay-per-views too, right?
Yes. So yeah, TV, live attendance, of course, that is money. But I mean, like, if you really look at the business model, you've got the network and television, both international and domestic, huge in merchandise. There's your money. You know, like ticket sales, you're going to take a hit, but not a crippling knock you to your knees hit when you're a company that's profiting hundreds of millions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like, I feel like the momentum too, like I'll give you an example. I think the Royal Rumble was, I think, January or February. Mm-hmm. I mean, they did that at a stadium. It was packed and Edge returned and like the brand just got hot. You know what I mean? And everyone was ready for the Edge WrestleMania run. You know what I mean? And just like, the timing, I just think, of COVID really kind of affected the momentum because the Royal Rumble this year was like unreal. Like,
it was fantastic. I loved it too. I was there, and it in person, and it was awesome. Yeah, you got to see that. You got to see Edge come back. You got to, I mean, Drew finally get his moment there.
Brock Lesnar was going down as one of like the best. Yeah.
That was fantastic. And I mean, like, yeah, it was a great show and like building into a great WrestleMania season and everything like that. And then
it just went, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's definitely a frustrating thing because it's like, you know, I work in sports as well and hockey and everything. And that was kind of like peak time of like playoffs and getting ready for everything. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I think it did that so many industries. It was just like this, like whams, like full stop. And I don't care who you are. It's hard to be ready for that in any way.
It is crazy. There's one other highlight about your career that we have not brought up right now. And I'm wondering maybe if you know what I'm talking about, if you can sing it.
Oh God. The good old Rusev Day.
I mean, that was just like, that just exploded. That just became like, to be honest with you, this like way bigger than I thought it was going to be. If you know what I mean. You know
I think it was way bigger than any of us thought it was going to be. You know, I think that's 100%, you know, the case. But that goes for, I think, me, even Rusev, the company.
Who's been on this show, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing I've always realized, and I want to tell you this, right? I remember a lot of people have like, you work for the company, so certain people, you know people obviously more than I know them. But I remember being at a WWF softball game, charity event, and I met and they had, there was, Owen Hart was there. You had, APA was there, Goldust was there, and Triple H was there as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And I remember him in China at the booth signing. And I knew him as a heel, right? And I just remember how nice he was to me as like an 8-year-old, you know what I mean? And how it was like, you guys are like the nicest guys. And anytime I talk or speak to a professional wrestler like yourself, whether it's on a podcast or in person, you guys are just so down to earth, humble, and nice people to the fans. And like, that is important. And I just wanted to say thank you for that, man, because that's crazy. And I think you're trained because you're working all the time and it's kind of part of the thing. But do you know what I mean? Like, there's something really likable.
No, I think that's true. I think exceptions, of course, but for the most part, no, I agree. And I think it is because it's like, we have such an intimate relationship with the audience. I think, we're in a lot of places, whether even like in acting in theater, because when you're on TV and the movies, you're separated. Even in theater, you don't really acknowledge the audience. I've been there. In sports, you're in the game, right? You come out, like maybe you wave to the fans, but you are playing. We get to like, especially on like the live events, we get to interact with you guys. We have a lot more like regular meet and greets and media and stuff like that. And multiple shows a week. It's not like one game every couple of weeks sort of thing. So we are constantly, we have such a great intimate relationship, and I feel like back and forth with our audience that I think it never, at least for most of us, doesn't get lost on us that like, you people, you make us, you guys make our careers
like,
what it
I've
is.
never heard anyone say like, oh, like I met a wrestler and he was grumpy. Like, I'm sure it happens, but I've never heard that.
Only at the airport at 5 a.m. when you're desperately trying to catch your flight and somebody
people want photos with you,
which is totally like cool. And when you're polite about it, it's awesome. But sometimes it's just social cues.
But I think too, it's like a character like Aiden English, right? Who, because of the singing and because of the way you presented yourself, was such a very like fun and like a fun heel type thing that when people saw you, the interactions are going to be bigger for guys like you, right? Because, they'll ask you to say Rusev Day or they'll ask you about certain things, you know what I mean? So I'm not surprised that you, as Aiden English, you probably got stopped at the airport quite a bit. There's no way.
Everybody did. It was one of those things that came with the territory, but it was fun. And I'm a firm believer in, cut my throat or whatever, but kayfabe is kind of dead. So like I try to treat everybody equally, even though I was a bad guy on TV.
Well, I recently interviewed someone from the WWE that like literally is like a part of Retribution right now, and he like did the interview like not like just like regular, and like I think it's throwing off a lot of people.
Well, and it's a pet peeve of mine. Almost people like I get fans sometimes who will comment when I do anything that's kind of open. And they're like, "Oh, kill kayfabe, killing the business. What the hell? What's wrong with you? This is what's wrong with wrestling." I'm like, well, if that's what's wrong with it today, brother, that's what's been wrong with it for the past 15 years. It's been an open book.
The interview that Edge did where he was taking calls from, I don't know if you know what I'm going to talk about.
I don't know.
He did an old news interview, right? Where it was kind of one of these like it wasn't like Maury or Jerry Springer, but like sometimes they have like controversy, like is wrestling too violent or something, right?
Right.
So they had Edge there, right? And they're calling people, and then basically like someone's calling them, being like, the Undertaker like got his hand cut off or something. That's violent. That's not good for kids or something. You know what I mean? And then Edge was like, well, what's the difference between that and like Darth Vader get his hand cut off?
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, oh, it's real. He's like, no, it's not real. It's sports entertainment. And he's like, if you think it's real, you should check on your life.
Yeah. The funny thing is people also forget that, like, do you remember at the dawn of the Attitude Era, Vince McMahon cut a commercial saying like, our stories will be more edgy. Our characters that we write are going to be like more intense. And like the story he was saying that over 20 years ago. Like, This is not something new. It's not something like, oh, now it's killing the business.
I feel though, like NXT, and especially when vaudevillains were on it though, Matt, when like the TakeOver Stadium shows started to kind of come into play, I feel like the arena shows, sorry. I feel like NXT, in my opinion, kind of saved the WWE, because I look back at stuff a little bit and there was like the main roster was like there wasn't much going on. It was the same guys all the time. They had WWE superstars. NXT came on and it just started becoming way more than just development, you know what I mean? And like became its own brand. How does it feel to kind of be part of an era of wrestling like that that's going to kind of be in people's heads for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and like it's one of those things you don't realize until like later you look back, you're like, holy crap. Like, I came in right before that started. I came in, early 2012 to when it was still FCW. Yeah. And then by that summer, we had switched the branding to NXT. And then by the next year, we had moved completely to Orlando. Yeah. And so, I got to see the NXT name change officially, and then the Performance Center be built. I got to get got to see a tour of it while it was still in studs and everything like that, and then to train there, and then to NXT the TV show, and then turning into the traveling shows, then the arena show, and you realize, and watching all these stars come through and all the characters we built and made, and I don't know if it saved WWE, but it sure as hell reinvigorated it. I mean, it gave it a whole new feel. It gave it a whole new fresh crop of stars and a whole different platform that felt so unique.
But I'm telling you, and some of them have been brought up to the main roster, but I'm telling you right now, the Undisputed Era is literally like the NWO. They are the new NWO. They are so cool and so innovative. All those guys are amazing. Yet they're on NXT. You know what I mean?
But I mean, NXT it's reached that point where it's funny, because when I was down there, even as it was getting hot, the old adage was, "Hey guys, there's no careers in developmental." They would say, they're get your success here, we're happy, but our goal is to get all of you on WrestleMania, right? On Monday Night Raw. That's always the goal. We're trying to build you here, make a great character, and then put it into the mainstream, which is still kind of the case. But now, I mean, God, they're at to the point where they're making money. And I remember when we first got merch, when you could get a t-shirt, it was oh my God, I can maybe get a t-shirt. And now, God, they were selling everyone's got more merch than some of the main roster guys and stuff. And then now the USA TV deal is huge for what was a developmental brand. So careers in development, there are now. I mean, there's enough kind of credibility in that brand and enough time and effort and money and all that stuff that you could probably, guys like that, potentially could stay their whole WWE run down there.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on Popternative, man. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
No, it was fun. Thank you for having me.
Now plug away, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now with your streaming, and it's awesome, by the way. Just plug away. Where can people follow you on social media? What could they be looking out for streaming? The stage is yours.
Oh, I appreciate it. No, I mean, very simply, I'm Drama King Matt. You can find me both, Instagram, Twitter, and that's my Twitch name as well. Stream there a couple times a week. DramaKingMatt@gmail.com for any bookings or appearances, etc. And then on the flip side, just look Wrestling with Whiskey. Same thing. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. That is my whiskey side project. I write, I review. We do live shows every single week where I'm trying new stuff. I have interviews with wrestlers and whiskey personalities and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
We hang out, we have a drink, we have a good time. I nerd out over what I'm smelling in my glass, things like that. But that's kind of my other little side passion project. So Drama King Matt or Wrestling with Whiskey, and you will find me.
And can you sing to my viewers that they should check out Popternative?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you dial in your computers or whatever the hell you're watching on to Popternative.
Amazing, man. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Drama King Matt Rehwoldt, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.